Hello, Colonel Wimbish. Thank you so much for being here. So for our first question, as always, what inspired you to run for Congress?
Well, there's many things. One of the things that concerns me is how our country is being, in my opinion, mismanaged. One thing about all of you in college and I who went through many of the same ropes that you're going through now is to understand what it is to have the confidence to be willing to step up to the plate and know what to do when you have to make decisions that are not just grassroots, but always up to strategic level. And my experience and years of experience, because experience can't be taught. It has to be earned over time. And over time, I've earned a lot of years of experience in learning what it takes to be a leader, what it takes to be a manager. How do you get individuals to come together in a teamsman-like manner so that collectively the mission or the goal that you're trying to set can be achieved? I mean, you see it every day in all the sports activities that you see on campus. You see it in the pro sports. You see it in programs that you have in plays and actors working together so that when it comes to the screen, everything looks so seamless, it works together. But yet there's many components, and knowing how to manage through those things caused me to take the transferable skills that I had from over 33 years of military service. I've also been in corporate America as a manager and as a leader. I rose up through the ranks in the military from the second lieutenant upon graduating from college. I went to a historical Black college, Morgan State University in Baltimore. I paid my way through school and earned a scholarship while in school. And by the time I was 20, I was already in charge of men around the world with the elite 82nd Airborne Division. I was a paratroop at that time, 20 years old, and responsible for men, their lives, their mission, being able to make decisions, as they say, hit the ground running, not having to allow my emotion to override rational thinking and being able to get into that mode and know you're accountable and responsible. Those are kind of things that resonated in my mind. When a year ago on 9/11, we made, in my opinion, a strategic error in the horrific withdrawal that left many of young people about your age, unfortunately, dead in Afghanistan. I served in Afghanistan. I served in uniform, and I also served as a contractor. And I served in those very locations where you saw all of those people trying to get out of Afghanistan and falling off of the airplanes because they knew the Taliban were going to come and take advantage of the weakness of their society. To know that young girls never had a chance to finish high school, let alone go to college. We're lucky in this country to see our daughters being able to achieve success and be able to compete fairly against their male counterparts. Not so in many countries. If you've never been there or studied about them, I encourage you to do so. But all of those memories of what I saw that I never wanted to come to America. And weeks before that 13 young men and women were murdered at the gates, I witnessed on all the networks, the Taliban murdering the commandos that I once trained when I was there. And I carry a coin in my pocket that they gave me because we were giving them the knowledge and the skills to protect their women and children and hopefully return Iraq and Afghanistan back to nations of dignity and pride. It wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. And today I said to myself a year ago, I have to do more than just sit here and watch the era. God has blessed me with skills and knowledge and experiences. I'm educated. I came from nothing. I got more than I deserved. What can I do? It was 4 o'clock in the morning when my spiritual self was awakened by my creator and said, go to work. You're not retired anymore. I retired 4 times, 3 from the military, corporate America. Actually, and then I taught high school JROTC for 5 years at 2 different high schools. During COVID, I was unemployed, but that was okay. I had it made. Or did I really? If you love this nation as much as I do, if you understand where you've been and where you are, but more importantly, what are we going to have laid for the future? That caused me to run for Congress. Sorry about the long answer, but that is truly what brought me to the table. It says, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? I'm willing to take a bullet for my country. I'm a Bronze Star recipient. I'm a disabled veteran. I've got enough gray hair to say, you know, I got a little bit for you when you get older like me. But at my age, and my age is not an issue, at least for me it isn't. I'm 73. They're already saying, well, he's a 25 Generation Z. Well, you got Generation C and they're gonna start all over again, and another generation's that yet to come. That doesn't matter. What does matter is, are you capable? Are you experienced enough to make everything that you got here and everything that you learned physically, psychologically work for the system? I can bring that to the table for America, and that's why I ran for Congress.
So kind of going off of your experience as a former Green Beret colonel, how would you say you plan on using your military experience and the lessons you've learned with it to approach your role as a representative?
Well, one of the things you got to do is, as they say, think on your feet, be able to react to rapidly changing circumstances. Remember, it's not all about me, it's above me. It's about the people who elect me to serve. As you know, in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about those who are elected to serve those who are governed. And if I, as a person is going to go to Congress to be the advocate or the adversary for the people, I got to remember how to take and understand what is that the people have told me are the concerns, the issues that they want to have answered and resolved. You know, lower taxes, for example, is one of the hottest issues that is on the table for most Americans right now. You know, you all are there in college, but also when you think about your families at home, you stretch a dollar. The cost of living has gotten out of whack, where the cost of a gallon of gasoline is equal to the same cost as buying a gallon of milk. And if you're a social economic on the lower side of the income scale, you have a low income, how are you going to make a decision? Do I put gas in my car to go to work to take care of my family so I can put food on the table, put clothes on my kids' back, keep a roof over my head, hire rent? Because everything happens with inflation. Inflation is the killer, if you would. And inflation was going in the right direction, down, before the current administration took over in 2020. When 17, and you go back and look at it, on January 20th, when the current president Biden wrote and signed those 17 executive orders, inflation got dialed up. It's like what's happened down with SpaceX. All of a sudden, I knew then, as you all are feeling, and I'm feeling now, it was coming. And when you have to cut off the pipeline, that directly affects what happens to everything. You can't get products to move unless you have vehicles that can move. You got ships that are stuck out at sea. You can look out in the West Coast and the East Coast and see all the container ships lined up that they can't get to dock. Then you have to have workers to have to offload them, put them on the trailers. The trailers got to run on the truck. Then we had COVID. But all of these things were a combination of, to me, making bad judgment decisions with the authority to do the right things right for America first. So then you have law and order started to get out of whack. And, you know, you got cities that were burning. No one did anything to stop it. No one that could have, meaning those in power, both at the federal and state levels. And so we began to see chaos raising up because we started to let social ideas or socialism become the priority versus common sense and rational decision making. It's no more than if you don't like your professor and you decide to go burn the classroom. That is not wise. Or go to the bookstore and let the bookstore burn, and knowing that the next time you go get a book, they're going to probably be 10 times more expensive because you've wasted resources and assets that were valuable to your country. So when you ask me about my military skills, I learned how to time manage. I know how to take people with skill sets. I see the issues, and my goal is not to just look at the issues, but what are some of the common sense solutions? What are the strategies that can be put together? And I use my hands like, I believe it or not, I got a little Italian in me. But when you put it together, as my granddaughter showed me, you can learn to make things flow. Don't we want good flow, good karma for what you're doing? You don't want to waste your time in college forever. You want to take those skills and put them up at work. My military experience helped me do that. I worked at basic level all the way up to general level, general officer level. I briefed commanding generals. I was a helicopter pilot at 24 years old. I was already a Green Beret which is, if you've never seen a movie with John Wayne, The Green Beret, I invite you to play it at your student union one day. But it takes courage to step into the fire. When you see someone coming at you, most people cower and want to hide, duck and cover. Navy SEALs and Green Berets, we go into harm's way. We would take the bullet to stop those innocent from having to deal with that. So I hope that answers your question, but my military skill sets, knowledge, quick on my feet, be willing to go in harm's way, go where no one else would go to protect the innocent. One of our mottos in the Green Beret is "De oppresso libera," to liberate the oppressed. Right now, I see our country's oppressed because we're going all different directions instead of coming together as one.
Oh, thank you, Colonel. And, I just wanted to go ahead and say thank you for your service, by the way, in the military. And, so this next question is about when the election is over. So let's say the election's over, it's November 9th, and you've won.
Yes.
Congratulations. What would you say are your main legislative priorities that you are prioritizing at the first day of Congress, and what prospects do you set out for your term?
Support any bill and every bill to get our economy up and get running again. Let's stop the inflation. Let's close the border. Let's stop the illegals. We've got millions of illegals have crossed the border, and we can't find them. The gotaways, over 1 million this year, but they kept reporting, oh, it's not a problem. It was a problem the day the executive order was signed, and they didn't want to finish that last few miles of the wall. We're a sovereign nation. You can't be a sovereign nation if you leave your door open. It's just like I saw it behind you there, Brandon. You had your door open in your closet. If that was the door to your room, somebody could come and you in the head. How would you like to walk into your dorm room there, ladies, and someone's already sitting in your corner, eating out of your little refrigerator, and also I got another person in the shower because I came through the window. You'd expect privacy and you'd expect harmony. And if you're one nation, you come through the front door, you knock, you ring, you fill out the paperwork, you do the process properly. But right now we've got illegals who are getting more than people who are born here. People who have immigrated here legally, still waiting in line to get illegal across the border. They give them a cell phone that you're paying for out of your taxes, and it's going to probably impact in tuition and fees for the next generation of students because somebody's going to eat that cost. Using other people's money is what's causing part of our problem. So if you want to make sure that we can get things focused in the right direction, one of the things I will do is pass the bill. Let's get our pipeline running again. Let's get fracking going again. Let's make sure that ANWR and the Keystone pipelines are not losing the value that it gave us in terms of energy independence. We were the most energy independent nation in the world under President Trump for those 4 years. 4 years ago, go back and do the statistics and look at it. $1.50 to $1.77 is what we were paying for gas. Gasoline that goes in your cars. Now you're paying what, $3, $4, $5, and I have friends and relatives in California, $6, $7, and $8. Lucky you're going to school here in Florida, because it'd be hard to go home and see mom. You said you can't wait to get home, Brandon. It's going to be a lot of money out of that pocket as a graduate on how to get home. Fossil fuels, you just can't shut it off and then turn on and solar energy or electric vehicles overnight. There's no infrastructure. Who's going to pay for the trillions of dollars it's going to take to make that happen? So my goal is to make sure we get those kind of laws passed. Repeal laws that are not working, the ones that are overtaxing you, and giving away your money and my money to people who could go to work, should go to work, but won't go to work. That is called insanity. Pretty soon that leads to what happened to Venezuela. You all know the history of Venezuela about 10 years ago. What was it? My question to you three. It was what in South America?
The election of Chavez. And
But
then
what happened 10 years ago, what was
10 years ago.
Venezuela in terms of its value to the world?
They're one of the richest countries in South America.
That's
in
right.
regards
It
to
was
oil.
the richest country in
Yeah.
South America.
Yeah.
Every one of you should know that, because if we don't watch it, we would be just like Venezuela at the rate of we're going, at the intensity to start mocking our nation, take law enforcement, take away their power. When you don't have law enforcement, you will get chaos. I've seen it happen in many countries around the world. I've watched it where it falls apart because then the criminals take over. So those millions of guys and gals that have come here from countries that hate us, They're hiding in the woods and the streets right now. You think 9/11 was bad 21 years ago? You ain't seen nothing yet, because there are people who are trained and have come here purposefully to put us in harm's way. Thank God we got people and soldiers. And you look at schools, you know, we need to make sure that school choice, where if a school is failing, parents are not considered domestic terrorists, and the money follows the student. The student should be able to go back to virtual school, homeschool, or to a parochial school, but get a better education and be forced to take knowledge and thrown in knowledge that is not useful. Civics, you're having to go to college and learn civics. When I was a young man, I was learning civics back in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th grade. I understand the value of America. What's wrong with not bringing that back? Self-respect and selfless service. That's part of the military way as well. Integrity is like the umbrella. It's doing what's expected of you and others not looking. And how many of you would like to have your mom say, that was my son burning down at Walgreens and stealing a TV from a store? It would be painful for your mom and dad. I don't think they raise us to be that way. And my alternative people is, without law and order, we can't win. We, the people, lose.
Now we're going to be focusing on more like platform specific questions, issue
Sure.
related. As of now, we probably have time for two platform specific questions, and then we're going to have like two more like fun questions at the end.
Sure, I love having fun. You got to have fun in life.
For sure. So, as we all know, Florida recently experienced a major hurricane. Moving forward, as a representative, what would be your approach towards aiding the community in the event of a future natural disaster?
Well, I'm FEMA qualified. One of the first things I did, and I encourage you all to do, is sign up and get some of the FEMA courses under your belt. All right. FEMA is there to help, but it also requires each of us to be on top of it. You know, the hurricane that came through Florida was tragic. It came right through the I-4 corridor, as you know, from Fort Myers, where I used to teach down at Cape Coral High School. My former high school got wiped. All of that you saw down on the beach, my cadets and I would go there. We do ceremonies up and down there. There's a lot of veterans down there that have retired because they don't need to be shoveling snow. So we all came to Florida, and many of them said, but to have great weather 99% of the time, but once in every 500-year hurricane just proved that, you know, we're at the mercy of the Almighty, our Creator. And when the winds come, they will blow. And if you build your structures in a weak domain, that could happen. First of all, there is infrastructure in place, as we saw, even when we saw President Biden with Governor DeSantis last week. There are statutes to ensure that they can have a near rapid response to the needs that are facing our community. You know, politics doesn't matter in a natural disaster. That's where, like my team and I stopped. I said, time out. We're not campaigning. We're going to work with our community. We went actually, and if you look at my website and also in Facebook and Instagram and others, and please go to votecal2022.org. You know I'm going to have to say that. But check my website out, and then check the different social media links. I was out with my team giving blood the very next morning. Went down to one blood, hooked me up. And I made a little video clip saying, please, this is the time for all good men and women who love their country and love those who they don't even know to come to their aid. Get out in the community, get your galoshes on, and if you got a little raft or a boat or canoe, go out and help those who got flooded. I see that a lot of the mayors are talking about what they could have and should have done prior to the hurricanes coming. But unfortunately, at the local levels, they can only do but so much with the limited funds they have. But infrastructure has to be recognized as a sore spot in every city. I will work in legislature to make sure that the federal aid is proportionally and quickly given to the states, and that the state governors do the best for their people. That's important. I'm open to work with anyone and everyone to ensure safety and recovery.
So just kind of wrapping up some questions on your platform, we want to know, what is your approach to crime, particularly in terms of gun violence?
Well, first of all, crime is creeping in too rapidly in our communities, everywhere you look. Sadness is in places where people were once feeling comfortable. After the sun goes down, nobody wants to go out. If they do, because we've limited law enforcement's ability to stop those who want to break and enter and rob and steal. They get away with everything. And so a lot of people who are elderly don't want to go shopping. They go out early in the day and they go in groups. You know, this is not the way you have to be worrying about who's sneaking up behind you. You've seen the young people sucker punching people, which is sick. And you're trying to take advantage. What kind of mother or father wants to see their child or daughter doing that, son or daughter doing that kind of thing? What is that telling you? We're letting those who maybe are mentally ill or nuts start to rule. And when you take away the power of the people, especially your rights to protect and defend your homeland, your family away, chaos will begin to become the norm. We've all seen the movie The Godfather. We don't need that kind of rule taking over our nation again. We've migrated from that. One of the things in terms of peace is peace comes through strength. And if we have a law enforcement, we have a military that people recognize will execute and go forward with the rules of law that are in place and apply them, as if you break the law, you need to do the time. That's what Governor DeSantis has placed in place. You come to Florida, you do what you're doing in New York and California, then you're going to do the time. You know, I think that, you know, bottom line, one death is too many, regardless of the methods used, whether it's a gun, whether it's a rock, whether it's a stick, whether it's a machete. Come on, common sense says we don't need that kind of, especially when it comes to guns. You know, the Second Amendment gives you a right to protect your family, and it states right there in the Second Amendment, without infringement. Nothing more needs to be done. When you take guns from law-abiding citizens, guess what? Hello, I'm a criminal. Guess what? It's a gun-free zone. Guess what? Let's go and take advantage of the people who are left at risk. The even sadder part is that, wow, it's kind of hard when I think about it. If not, the most of the gun deaths are many times is suicidal. We got a lot of crazy people, mentally ill people who are on the streets. How many of you, when you go downtown in Gainesville and you see some of the people who are out there waiting for you when you get ready to cross the street, putting their hand out? Rather than give people a hand out, we need to give them a hand up to rise up above their circumstances. If you and I'm no different than any one person, anyone else. I'll just give you a little short vignette. My parents came from Danville, Virginia. Look it up. Joe Biden went through there and stated in my parents' hometown, they were both farm kids with no education. If you don't vote for Obama and me, and you vote for the Republicans, they're going to keep you in chains. My dad is 98 years old. My mom is 94. They're 77 years, still married. Married on Friday, April the 13th, 1945. And you know what my dad called me? Boy, we got a problem. There's no shackles and there's no chains. It's all in our brain, but we choose to try to shape the mind of our society that if we don't be careful, America will be this slave state. Not what's happening to the Black people when we were considered property. It took people like Frederick Douglass to step up, a slave who escaped, he got educated, came back, went to the White House with Lincoln, helped bring in Blacks into the Union Army, had his own 2 sons join the Army, fighting for those who were still enslaved to get off the plantation. I'm telling Americans today, stop letting yourself fall back to a plantation mentality. If you learn history, and I love history, you'll realize we're getting ready to go back into a cycle that Martin Luther King said in Washington, D.C. We're setting ourselves up for failure. Why can't all men, Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, come together and join hands? Because he saw the vision for tomorrow. Let's do the right things right. It's all about the people, not about me. I will literally, if need be, I've lived for this country, and I was willing to put my life at risk and die for this country, but I'll be darned if I'm going to stand here and watch my country die under my watch. It's about your future. It's about your next generation.
So, you know, very fun questions and stuff. You mentioned that you were a former GROTC instructor, and you know, with cadets and everything. And I'm sorry about your high school that was swept away, by the way. But you know, I guess that's a fun thing. What would be your favorite memory of, you know, teaching these cadets, these students?
When the ones who thought they were the least valued or important in the group proved to be the best. When some of the young people who didn't have as some thought, the silver spoon, and mom and dad gave them everything. We're able to step up and be the squad leaders, the platoon leaders, the company commander, or the battalion commander. Those are different echelons of rank. And when they showed the confidence and courage and the willingness to make a decision, right or wrong, but then be accountable for their actions and their decision. That is one of the greatest things that the things that I always talked about. I have a card that I carry in my pocket. It's called the Army Core Values. Let me see if I can put it up to my camera here. And you can see this here. I've carried this card in my pocket, for about 30 years. It's laminated. It's some of the core values. And loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Every one of those things, I think every student, every child is taught by their mom and dad. The mother and father is the beginning of what makes you who you are. Maslow hierarchy of need theory also talks about from birth until you're about 8 years old, you are what you're made right then. Are you going to think more scientifically? Are you going to be intellectual? Are you the kind of person that likes to do puzzles and you can figure them out just like this? Your creativity is created that way. And watching my cadets form and be able to build what they call an order, where they were going to go from point X to point Y. And how you're going to get there was not a straight line. You had to go and maneuver through pitfalls and figure out, navigate in the middle of the night with a compass in your hand. You don't have your cell phones. Cell phones, we took them all away. Now you had to navigate from point A to point B using the sun or using the moon or knowing how to track the stars. Because that builds confidence that if you're in a survival mode, I know you all like to go hunting or camping or fishing, and you're out in the middle of nowhere and all of a sudden your phone is dead. What are you going to do? When you run out of your favorite food, what are you going to eat? These are the things that I really enjoy, teaching students survival skills and being confident and competent in how to make things work and work together again as a team. I used my hands before and I use it again. I never could do that. I was born with soul with no rhythm. I had to take my sister to my senior prom. That's how bad my dancing was at that time. But we got to have rhythm of the beat in our country. And God bless those who founded this country. And the intent was to make sure that when we evolve and as we evolve, 247 years to date, we're the greatest nation that has evolved. There's no other dynasty that has outdone the United States of America. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. I want our nation to get off the two edges of the couch. Let's get together. Let's bring our country back so you can be proud of America as much as I believe I am proud to be an American.
That's nice. Very, very nice. All right. And then our last fun question is a message to Florida students. So who wants to take that?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Which one
I
of the
will. I
ladies?
mean, you already kind of hinted.
Oh,
at this
sorry. I should have
already.
just said the next question.
You kind of
Yeah.
hinted at this already with your very like grand response at the end. It almost felt like a final question response, but officially our final question is, what is your message for Florida students?
I want Florida students to realize this is your land. You were blessed to be born in a country that gives you the freedom. Under the Constitution of the United States, it was created for all men and women, regardless of where you came from. Faith, family, and freedom. Those are the three basics that I have heard from every person that I've talked to. I've talked to over 10,000 plus people to get on the ballot back in February when I finally walked the streets. I didn't pay as some people were paid, as Maxwell Frost did pay. He didn't get out and walk the street and talk to the people. And everybody I talked to, Hispanic, Black, Asian, people of different cultures from around the world, from the Ukraine and Russia to Europe and South Africa. I've got more African friends that are white because they're born in Africa, so they are Africans, than people who say, well, because of your skin. My daughter, my son, my wife, she's Hawaiian and she's mixed with Korean and German. I'm all mixed up. We're combinations of, we didn't ask for who we are. We woke up one day and finally we said, oh, I guess I'm my mother and my dad's child. Yes, you are. But beauty's only skin deep. Your ugliness is to the bone. It's not the color of your skin, it's the content of character that really truly matters when you say, I'm an American first. You know, we can have all of our opinions and everyone has one, but we don't need to be like ostriches with our heads in the sand, not knowing what's happening and letting the other end kind of communicate to the world. Let's get your heads up, be proud. Don't let people stomp on your country flag. Be proud that you have the right to freedom. You know, we can stop the burden and the indignation that comes with us. You know, it's hard out there right now for all of us. The darkest at night before daybreak. But let's get America back on track. You ever get in a dark tunnel? You see a little beam of light. Think about it this way. College students, you have a choice. Is that a light of maybe a Mack truck or a freight train about ready to run you over? Or is that light, that beam, a light of opportunity, trying to pull you through to say, stop the gripping your fists in anger, open up your life and your mind. Not all about you, it's all about the people who you have to work through and with. You do that, you two, you three can help make this country a better country than it's ever been. My motto is, let's make America better than it's ever been before. All these acronyms doesn't mean squat until you put it to good work. Don't shut down our law enforcement. Frost wants to shut down OPD down here. Don't tell me that smoking marijuana is cool, so let's make it nationally legal, because one leads to the other. We got young people using drugs, don't know why they use them, but they do it because it's cool. Every generation has done that before, but they also found that how dumb it was. How many parents now say, I wish I had never got involved with that. Don't keep repeating the same mistakes over, but sometimes human nature makes people do that. Fentanyl is killing kids. And now they got it color-coded and they make it look like candy and popcorn and you name it. This is wrong. We got to shut the door down. So those illegal drugs, those human trafficking, smuggling, you know, all the criminals that are coming in here, they're out to destroy the fiber of America because we are the country that's on the hill, the shining light. And people like to destroy the shining light. I'm standing tall and I want you all to stand tall. Say, not on your watch. I want your children yet to feel comfortable that when mom and dad lets me to this world, welcome them in. When you make that decision, remember, accountability and responsibility. Men need to be responsible as well as the woman to make that decision. Don't be a grown-up with a mentality of a fifth grader. Well, it just felt good for the moment. What about the child who can't speak? That is not right, because we wouldn't be having this conference right now had your parents took the opposite. And neither would Maxwell Frost, because his mother allowed him to stay into this world so he can come into this world. Life is beautiful.